Hey guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. And in today's episode, I'm going to be addressing the allegations coming from a lot of Black scholars about anti-Blackness in prevalent spaces. So before we get into this video, I just want to start off by saying I've never really been the type of person who's derived any level of confidence from other people being beneath me. I've never really derived any sense of confidence from doing better than somebody else, right? I've never derived my confidence from that. You know how people say things like, well, you should be grateful because you have more than this person, this person, this person. I never look at it like that. I'm typically looking at people who may have more and I'm aspiring for better or for greater. You may say that that's wrong. You may say that that's the reason why you probably struggle with confidence or whatever the case may be. But I just feel like I've never been the type of person to esteem myself off the backs of others. Like I've just never off the misfortunes of other people. And when I think about, I just got me a cheese Danish, just a sidebar. Oh my God, these are so delicious. And I want to eat this before it gets cold. But when I think about people, and specifically Black scholars, Black educators, always exclaiming anti-Blackness, it's really starting to really grind my gears, okay? I don't even know how to even say this nicely, but I'm getting so fed up with the anti-Black rhetoric because the realism that we are anti-poverty, okay? And the problem and the reason why I feel like we can never really get to the fruit and to the root of a thing, we can never get to the truth of the matter, is because I feel like our ignorance, right, our displays, our outward displays of ignorance, our dysfunctional behavior and regulation, all of these things are rewarded, right? They will literally pay you to get on a show and act the most blackest stereotypes. They will literally pay you a lot of money. It's called Zeus Network, okay? They will give you a show, they'll give you a platform, whatever the case may be, just for you to perpetuate your most or best ignorant form of Blackness. So I don't know if some of these scholars are trying to be hip and trying to stay relevant and trying to make some type of correlation between rap music and hip hop and R&B. Well, let me not say R&B, but whatever we're calling it today, but we'll most of the talk specifically rap music, in some type of critical analysis and how it has given Black people a sense of pride and how it's empowered us. It has completely destroyed our communities. I don't understand why we're still in denial about this. And we're at this point today where young women and young men are starting to literally act out this way. And honestly, I don't think that it's ever been something that we didn't act out, right? When I think about the hip hop era, when I think about when hip hop went to go into the street battle beatboxing type of genre to transitioning into like gun violence, and how gun violence really started to infiltrate itself in our communities, and there was death, right? We started to see death. This was shortly after the period where it's like our grandparents, R&B, cookouts, family reunions and things like that. Once hip hop, and I see this because I was there. Okay, I was kind of like there, but I was there. You know what I mean? I see this with my mom's generation and my dad's generation, right? I see this with my grandparents' generation and how it's literally impacted my family specifically. So it's like when we talk about these things like anti-Blackness, what are we really saying? And the problem with these rappers and entertainers that we put on a pedestal in our community, I'm still so very infuriated to this day that Kamala Harris had the nerve to invite Quavo to speak on gun violence. Out of all the leaders and all the scholars and all the people who have been on the front lines doing the work of activism, Quavo, what type of baseless, you know what? So anyway, at this point, I'm sick of it. And I don't want to be a part of it. What we don't realize is that all of the vitriol, the envy, the killing, the violence, all of these things that are going on in our community is because we are deprived. And you know we're deprived? Because the people who perpetuate these narratives about us keep us deprived, right? The scholars who are always professing and proclaiming anti-Blackness, it's like, get a clue. Seriously, get a clue, because it's like you're really out of touch. You're out of touch. See, you're in this, you're very fortunate. You were able to go to a privileged and you were able to, experience education, and you were able to have some of the best opportunities. So you have your education, and we love that for you, but please get a clue. Please get a clue. It's like people are always trying to advocate for Black people who are impoverished, Black people whose lives are literally being impacted by certain stereotypes. And you want to keep you're keeping us there. You're literally keeping us there. Do you know that most people who live in the hood don't want to be here? Nobody wants to be here. Why? You guys are delusional. Like, nobody wants to live here? It never gave camaraderie. It never gave glorification. It never gave concrete jungle, 8 boogie, dreams come true. It never gave that. Like, are you delusional? Like, get a clue. So it's just like, you guys are advocating for the very things that we're trying to get away from. You're advocating for the very things that we're trying to get out of. We don't want to be here. We don't want to be depicted as this. We don't, like, somebody please make it make sense. Somebody please make it make sense. And all because the very core value of this culture, I hate to say it, but it's the truth, has always been popularity. So because said celebrity is popular, because said thing is popular, whatever the case may be, as long as this thing is popular and this is the thing that gets the likes and the views, this is the common mentality amongst most or the majority, that's what people are going to go with. That's what people are going to go with. And that's why we stay stuck. So, I think we're at this point where we're starting to see a lot of different views politically, right? Black people are kind of doing their own thing. We can definitely see the dissolution of community and especially as it pertains to social justice. We're on totally different sides of the perspective. We're all spectrum. We're all over the place with it. But I definitely understand why. And I understand certain conservatives who have decided to just completely depart from blackness and black people in general, not getting into, racist undertones, not getting into, just kind of being injected and bit by the racist bug, just for lack of better words, but more so because to be black is to be a lot of negative things, right? Blackness is no longer seen as something that is really excellence. We have completely redefined many of the terms, and I'd like to think that's because of the lack of education. And you guys know, when we talk about education, I can say this over and over again, this does not mean primarily college, right? This doesn't mean American institutions and institutionalized learning. But what this does mean is the lack of education and just knowledge in regards to certain things. There are more genres. There are black people who have paved the way in music and who have done many great things in the realm and the space of entertainment. But when you don't have the education, you don't know that. So, you play into the stereotypes of people who already think the worst of your people. And you guys put these people on a pedestal and you critique people who say, listen, I'm really living this thing in this black body, in this black skin. I'm really having this black experience, like for real. And it's impacting my day-to-day life. This stuff is really toxic. It's really harmful and it's harming my communities. I'm looking at the little girls outside and it's not looking good. But here you have these scholars, these people who are in very, very far places away from ghettos, right? Very, very far away from anybody. Come online and use their platforms, use their education to keep us stuck. I'm not understanding. I'm just not understanding. And when you start talking about this crab in the barrel mentality, being in black communities are becoming more and more hostile, right? With our proxy to social media, it's very evident the wealth and the economic disparities within our communities, okay? People are hungry. Right? So it's not necessarily that crime is increasing more so. It's just more so it really poses a threat to relationships and community, So maybe where there was community in certain neighborhoods and, those who are impoverished, that doesn't really exist anymore, right? People are realizing that this whole thing with classism, especially today in the modern society, is the haves and the have-nots, okay? And that is something that is heavily perpetuated by a lot of African Americans. So I don't want to hear no more about anti-blackness, okay? I don't want to hear no more about it. Zip it. Shut it up. Matter of fact, shut it down. Take it home. Pack it up, okay? You guys get into these high places, you get these jobs, you get these things, and you want to be the representative for black people, but you don't know any. You don't really know any. You're really out of touch, and you're harming rather than helping. And you call yourself an ally, and that's a problem because this couldn't be far from it. So I definitely think at this point in time, what I would advise for my brothers and sisters, because one thing that has been very evident to me is the economic inequality showing up in the lives of black people that I know on a day-to-day basis. So I've heard people say certain things like black people have not, and we know that there are some black people who are doing very well for themselves, but it's never really in the things that we perpetuate to be the only way, right? It's not these fields of entertainment, it's not the athletes, it's not those people. It's typically the doctors. It's the people who, took very traditional roles and paths in life. And when those things are discouraged, because popularity and fame are encouraged, and not only do you gain capital, but you gain social capital, and that's addictive, right? That's especially addictive for someone whose brain is underdeveloped. Then what do you have? Right? You have the narrative, the streamlining narrative that says, okay, you probably can't be a doctor. You probably can't be someone who's successful in any type of trade or any type of career, but you probably can shake a little bit of something, right? And this is why I posed the question on the community board, community page, community post. Oh, Jesus, you know what I'm trying to say. And I asked you guys, how does this show up in sisterhood? How does it show up within Black women spaces, right? When you have to be the nastiest, the baddest, you have to be all of these things as a Black woman, right? That's pretty exhausting. So you take, those type of societal pressures and how that shows up in your relationships, not just with women, but even in your interactions with men. What do you have? You have hostility. You have hostility. So that's our way of relating now, and it's really unfortunate. I mean, you can look back and say, okay, this could be due to white culture, infiltrating our communities and the studies that were done and all of these different things. But it's like, at what point do we wake up and realize, like, okay, hold up, but the crazy thing is, we're at this point now where it's very unfortunate that it always has to take one, right? Out of all the people who are alive, out of all the people who have physical and mental capacity, it's always just got to be one leader, one person that we idolize, one person that we put on a pedestal, one person who has to be our legend, our God. And it's really unfortunate. And quite frankly, I think it's tiresome. You know what I mean? Every person is fully capable. So I just want to encourage you guys to make the most of the opportunity, make the most out of the opportunities in your life. Make the most out of what God has given you. It's totally okay if you grow out of this desire to be an entertainer, right? This desire to be an artist, to be this whatever person you feel like you have to be, right? I think it's really unfortunate because I think that that's where it's so heavily pushed within our communities, right? You hear people talk about this, the lack of STEM programs for young boys and young girls, but it's just an overall lack of representation and diversification within the world and the ways that we really can provide for ourselves and our families. It's always entertainment, creativity, and we know that these paths of artistry oftentimes do lead to poverty and stress at the end of the day. So, I guess I don't know what I'm saying, but I kind of just feel like, there comes a point in time where it's like we have to stop chasing a dream. We have to stop chasing something like an illusion, because I think that that's what's kind of leaving some of us on the wayside. And there's so many things that we really can address in this video, but for the sake of time, I think I'm just going to go ahead and end here. But it's not anti-Black, you know what I mean? It's anti whatever you think Blackness is. And I think that so many Black people are so tired of identifying with that, right? It's almost insulting, right? We are so much more than gyration.